All right, guys, this is our time to get us something to ring with the greatest faction in podcast history. Just Freak Wrestling, the JFW Podcast. I am your host, Travis C. And guys, I'm bringing you an incredible interview. One of those that I said I promised you, and it's actually happening. So for once, I'm not a liar. I'm going to try to do this intro. Clearly, I am not the best at it. Charlie Jr. obviously will do this better than anyone in the world. I'm going to try to imitate it. So please don't kill me if I mess this up, but I want to give it a shot. So I want to introduce you guys to my big bad brother from another mother, because Papa was a freak. That full-bred killer, Maddog, Ivan Manson.
That wasn't too bad, man.
Right? I tried to get that. I tried to get the in that like that.
Wasn't
That
too bad.
raspy, right? My thing is like I don't want to do it too loud to where it disorients the volume, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it's like you gotta get that Charlie voice into it.
yeah, that's hard to replicate there.
I know, and the
Yeah,
thing is like there's no way. I know in my heart I can never do it justice the way Charlie does it. And from a lot of the fans here at JFW, they've already heard the announcements. A lot of those that we're not actually going to hear that too much longer,
no,
which is sad.
no, it's
It's
coming
a
to an
bummer.
end, man.
It's coming to an end, and I know we talked about. You actually made that announcement uh, on one of our SCW roundtables. Actually, I think like maybe pre-pandemic. Like you said, like the
Yeah,
the ride's coming to an end here soon, and you made that announcement on Facebook that officially, I believe, November is the end.
it is.
So
ARW's Black and Blue Wednesday. It's the night before Thanksgiving, so it's going to be it. Yeah.
yeah.
I had planned on quitting, or not quitting, retiring.
Mhm.
Big difference. Um, the year COVID hit,
Yes.
but what I wanted to do, I wanted to put a full year's worth of work in, and
Mhm.
then retire. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I can't go out like this, man. I still have, a few more stories to tell. I'm still in
Yeah.
pretty good shape where I could still get in the ring and do it. So I had to go another 2 years. So
Right.
it is coming
So
to an end.
so from what it sounds like is it's actually your fault for COVID because the wrestling world wanted more Ivan Manson.
Right. If you want to, yeah, sure. Okay.
But yeah, so we know your career is coming to an end. The announcement has been made. But I wanted to take this opportunity to learn about your career, like from the very beginning, because as we're kind of setting this up and everything, you told me that we got 29 years of a career to cover. And obviously, that's so much for just one episode. So this is going to happen. This is almost gonna be like a series I'm excited to create.
I like it.
But as far as this episode, I want to start from the very beginning. And so let's go back 29 years ago. The very beginning of the birth of you into pro wrestling. I know a lot of people like have many gimmicks. So has Ivan Manson always been the first gimmick, the only gimmick you had, or did you start out this
Yeah.
journey under a different name?
Yeah, it was a different name. So
Okay.
this was early to middle 90s. And so the foreigner gimmick was really hot then.
Yeah.
You're a bad Russian, but, it's always the bad guy.
Yeah.
So they needed a good. I was in Windy City. They needed a good uh, foreigner gimmick,
Mhm.
to heal. So yeah, they stuck me with a Bulgarian gimmick. So they called me the Bulgarian Nightmare. I was Ivan Urkov.
Nice.
And the whole point was to get people chanting jerk off, and it worked. So
Okay,
yeah,
so the whole idea of the gimmick was to just be jerk off.
yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and this is back in the day when there was only Windy City around.
Yeah.
You couldn't just go work anywhere. So whatever Sam DeCero told you, if
Mhm.
you wanted to work on the show, whatever he said you're doing, you're doing.
Yeah.
And I accepted it. You know, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be in the ring, so I didn't care what you called me, whatever.
Mhm.
Just let me in the ring. So
Awesome. So
yeah,
what got you into wrestling to even begin with? Like have you always been a fan of wrestling, like growing up, like watching everything?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much everybody that's in the business. Just the people that are in the business just didn't grow out of it.
Mhm.
I had friends that we used to watch every pay per view back in the day, but they grew out of it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. It was a passion. I was like, man, I really want to do this.
Okay, so how did you find your way into the wrestling business then? So you're a kid. I don't know how old you are, so I don't know what 29 years ago was. Let's say you're 16 years old, give or take.
All right.
So let's say 29 years ago, you decide I want to get into the wrestling business. I need to learn how to be a professional wrestler. So where did that begin? Like where did you find a school? Who got you into it? Like where does that story begin?
Man, so it was kind of hard. This is before the internet. You can find anything nowadays. This is before
Hmm.
the internet. And I had heard that Al Snow, and that was before I knew who he was,
Yeah.
it was before he blew up. He had a school in Ohio, I think.
Okay.
So I called them up, and they were like, "Yeah, you pay so much money, and you come out here for 6 weeks. We pay for your food, whatever. We train you, and then you get a match at the end, and they send you on their way." I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
what happens after?" And they're like, "Well, you're on your own to find work." So I was like, "Man, is this the only place?" But one day I was going through Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines. I don't know
Okay.
if you ever went through them back in the day, but in the very back, they'd have all the results from all these
Yeah.
like indie shows.
Mhm.
Windy City was on there. That's where I noticed it first. I saw Windy City. It was Windy City Wrestling then,
Okay.
and I was like, "Oh, okay, it's got to be related to Chicago somehow." So after I had called Al Snow, I actually just we used to have this thing on the phone called information. You hit like 411 or something, you could ask for a number, and they'll give you a number. I was like, "Oh hell, man, let's just try it."
Mhm.
Called it, asked for Windy City Wrestling, and sure enough, there was a number. I had the number in my hand. I was looking at it. I was like, "Okay," and that was the start, man. I called, talked to Sam. He said, "Come on in. We'll talk to you." I remember I came there one night. It was a Tuesday night. It was pouring, and it was so hard to find this place. This is the old Windy
Yeah.
City Training Center. Um, but man, as soon as I walked in, you walk in the front door and you see the main ring, and I was just like, "Yes, I'm home. This is where I belong." So that's how I got into, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah.
So one of the things people hate most about me is how much I brag about going to wrestling school, and because I went to wrestling school, I jokingly, which like for some reason people can't take jokes anymore. You've seen 2022. There's no jokes anymore.
No.
Um, but I would sit there and I joke with people saying like, oh yeah, I went to wrestling school back in '07, so technically, I'm like a 15-year vet into the business. Complete joke. But I did go to wrestling school. I was actually trained by my cousin for Elite Pro Wrestling. Take me back to training with you. I know, like I've been to wrestling school. I've watched training happen nowadays, which is almost completely different from how it was back for me. Like I remember a lot more squats, a lot more burpees, a lot more running. You fuck up a bump and everything, you're gonna do laps, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for
You don't
sure.
see too much of that nowadays, but I think I was trained by a similar group of people who I think trained along like probably the same era as you, Vito and Sal Tomaselli,
Hmm.
Jay Jensen, Mike Nolan.
Yep.
Take me back to how your training was, and like was there a point in it where you thought maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
I remember my first time going through chop class. That's that's a whole experience right there. After I was done, and my chest was bleeding, so
Yeah.
they would have, I don't know, let's just say there was 7 people in my class at the time. So I would get in the corner, and the trainer would chop me, show them how to do it. First guy comes up, chops me, and he keeps chopping me until he gets it right. And we go all the way through the line. So you could end up with easily 100 chops,
Yeah.
easily. I remember my first time going through that, my chest was literally bleeding. I'm like, holy shit, I don't know if I can do this.
Mhm.
I don't know, you know, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I stuck it out. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, there was I think the moment for me where I felt maybe this wasn't for me was I don't know how when like the forum shots became more popular in pro wrestling. But it was around the time like because when I was a kid, I did like the backyard wrestling stuff with my friends. Like not the extreme backyard wrestling, not the stuff that you went through with Braun Lumberjack at ARW a couple weeks ago. But like mats on the like the backyard floor doing suplexes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like we never did like forearms. It was always like the punches and everything. So when I went into Elite Pro and they started learning forearms, Mike gave me my very first forearm, and he told me, and it was my fault 100%. When I hit you, don't cringe, don't go like this. Well, I did. Hit me, knocked me out.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how like, and even then when I did that, I got punished for it because I screwed up.
Yeah.
You don't see too much of that nowadays, but so who were your trainers at Windy City?
So my main trainer was Christopher Daniels.
Like the Christopher Daniels AEW
Yeah,
Impact?
Fallen
Okay.
Angel. Yeah, he was there every Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. He was my main guy. And then we had Mike Anthony. He would come in sometimes on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Then we have like Ripper Manson. That's eventually where I got my name from.
Yeah.
But he would train on weekends. So, and I was there every training practice. So, it was mostly Christopher Daniels.
Yeah. So how long did you have training before you got your first match in Windy City?
Well, it was, I don't know, about a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it was different back then. A whole different era. If Sam didn't think you were ready, then you know you're not. You know, if you didn't impress him in your practice, you're not getting booked. You know.
Yeah. Now back in Windy City era, because we're talking now like early 90s ish, like 93, 94, I'm guessing.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Like, do they have like the dark matches where they give you an opportunity for like the class to come in, have matches before the show officially starts and all that stuff? Like, did they have that back then?
No, we
So
had
it was
nothing
just
like that.
so it was one of the things like where he saw you, and if you look good enough in class, then we put you right onto the show.
Yeah. I mean, because Sam was there almost every practice too.
Yeah.
He wasn't always involved in what was going on, but he was there, whether he's watching, or just around the ring somewhere. Even if he's talking to somebody, he's still
Mhm.
paying attention to what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then now, and this is the beginning of the angry Russian heel Ivan,
Bulgarian. Yeah.
The
No,
Bulgarian
that's
Ivan.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just I assume always it's always Russian. Angry is always Russian. But
Yeah.
so the Bulgarian Ivan, how long were you that gimmick before they said we need to change it up? We need to make this Ivan Manson.
So, yeah, 94-ish. And then I went to 98 as that gimmick. And then I had so many little bangs and bruises.
Yeah.
I took a little bit of time off. So roughly 4 or 5 years ish, and then
Okay.
when I came back from my injuries, whatever, Sam, I talked to the Brotherhood, which I don't know if you ever heard of them. They were big back in the day. It was a
Okay.
big biker faction. It was someplace you'd want to be back in that day,
Mhm.
because you're guaranteed titles,
Yeah.
you're guaranteed good storylines. I came back, started talking to Sam, and he was like, "Well, I talked to Ripper and Psycho, and what do you think about joining the Brotherhood?" I'm like, pinch me. I was like, hell yeah. Right away I walked into the 6-man titles, and within a year I had won and lost the middleweight, and was already going on to the league, which was their main title.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I was, very, very lucky to, you know, get asked to be involved with them. I don't know where I'd be. I wouldn't be Ivan Manson if they hadn't asked me to join.
Yeah. 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 And when it comes to the Manson family, is like it seems like there's been a lot of like people coming and going like over the years.
Yeah.
So for me, like I mean, I've seen what the Manson family is like ARW, DWA, SCW. Obviously Charlie, but I do know Charlie came like later.
Yeah. He was never actually in the Brotherhood with the
Yeah.
Manson family.
Wait,
You know,
when did the Brotherhood become the Manson family?
well, I left Windy City in like 2008, somewhere around there, and I went to
Okay,
Vanguard, VWAA, and
gotcha.
that's where I just started the Manson family. but it was only me and the family, so it wasn't much of a family.
Oh, so you created the Manson family?
Kinda. I mean, because we were the Mansons in Windy City, but we were never like really referred to as a Manson family. We were just the Brotherhood, the Manson brothers, whatever. But to actually be called the Manson family, that started a little bit later.
Yeah. So maybe you can explain that to me then. So you're all named Manson, I'm assuming because of Charles Manson. Is that correct? Or is that just a coincidence?
Well, so it didn't have nothing to do with like my Charlie
No,
Jr.
yeah, I'm talking like Helter
Yeah, yeah.
Skelter in the that
So,
Manson.
so the story I'm told was my old partner Ripper Manson.
Yeah.
He used to be called Joey Knuckles, just whatever gimmick, and he was trying to think of something that would be cool. So he thought of the two famous serial killers, Jack the Ripper, Charles Manson, Ripper Manson. That's where that started. I mean, he basically started the Mansons.
Really? God, can you imagine if you went with like Ripper Dahmer?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Ivan
I'd be
Dahmer.
cool. That doesn't even sound good.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't book things. I'm not creative whatsoever. So,
Yeah.
but that's cool. I didn't know because I've heard people mention the Brotherhood from back in like Windy City days,
Mm-hmm.
but I never heard anyone ever discuss that the Manson family kind of came from that concept.
Yep. Yeah, that was
So,
Ripper. So,
got you.
yeah.
So, your first match in Windy City, who did they put you up against first? Like, who's your first booked match?
Oh God. So, um, I got the Bulgarian gimmick,
Yeah.
and they actually had a Bulgarian there. I think his name was like Kuncho or something. So they put us together,
Okay.
and my first match was in Columbus, Ohio. It was a handicap match. It was me and my partner against a guy named Bad Boy Brett Sanders. He was big back in the day. He ended up going to like Puerto Rico, and he might have even went to Japan. So he was big back in the late 90s,
Yeah.
early 2000s before he retired. Yeah, that was my first match. That was terrible, as it should have been. Everybody's first match can't be, stellar 5-star performance.
No, yeah, and you don't really ever expect it to be. I mean, like when you sit here and you're talking about stuff like nearly 3 decades later, you could probably look at it and be like, "Oh, like I shit the bed then." But
Yeah,
obviously, you always need to have a beginning. Like
yeah,
there's always needs to be a start from something. Um, so when you said you were with Windy City from the early '90s up until 2008, was there like an exclusive only wrestling for Windy City like deal back in the day, or were you able to go to other businesses? Because in the mid '90s there was the Lunatic Wrestling Federation, which was also pretty big in the area.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I heard there was kind of, and I could be wrong. This is all just from what I hear, but I heard there were issues between the two like federations or
Oh yeah,
companies, if you will.
oh yeah.
So is it like? Well, I guess my first question was was Windy City Wrestling an exclusive? Like you're contracted to wrestle only here?
Yes.
Okay,
I think the rule was we couldn't wrestle either 50 or 100 miles within Windy City area.
okay,
So, and back in the day, I didn't want to wrestle anywhere else. I mean, back in the day, we had a TV spot,
hmm
and I just loved Windy City. So,
yeah.
I mean, I was cool just being a Windy City guy.
All right, I got you. So could you enlighten me a little on what the issue was with the LWF?
Oh man. Well, me and Braun talk about this all the time because he's one of my best friends now. But
Yeah.
back in the day, I literally hated him, and he knows this. We've talked so many times about this.
hmm
So it was our mentality that we were trained wrestlers.
Yeah.
These guys were taking a shortcut training in a backyard. No offense.
Yeah. hmm
You know, there's a big difference. I mean, we're trained. These guys aren't. They're not trained. They're dangerous. What? Why would you want to go work for them when you could work for Windy City, who's professional? That was our thinking back then.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much about like the fact that like there was a fear of like LWF taking over the territory. It's just like they kind of saw themselves at a certain level where they weren't quite compared to what Windy City saw.
Yeah. That's all it
All right, that
was.
makes. I
I mean,
got
we,
you. I
we
got you.
definitely weren't afraid of them taking over anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we had our spots, we had our sponsors, we were
Mhm.
doing good.
Well, I know. So LWF, I think, wrestled like out of like the Midlothian area. Where was Windy City kind of wrestling out of?
Let's see. So our studio was in Chicago,
Okay.
and our TV spot was in Chicago, but we'd have shows all over the place. Um, but I guess you would say our home base was right off of Torrance Avenue, way up like 103rd and Torrance up there.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
So
like kind of by Burnham.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that was pretty much our home base, I guess.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2008, you leave Windy City, and now you're at Vanguard. Tell me more about Vanguard because Vanguard is not a company I'm too familiar with. I've heard stories from Hunter Payne wrestling there. I know you
hmm
mentioned Vanguard a little bit to me as well. Tell me a little more about the Vanguard company and I guess kind of your role there.
Yes. So there was like a mass exodus of wrestlers leaving Windy City. There were
Mhm.
so many other companies popping up, and we still weren't allowed to go anywhere else. It was to the point where even if we're in Indiana, we couldn't wrestle there.
Okay.
And at that point, there's so many other options. It sucks to just limit ourselves. So a bunch of us left. A guy named Frankie Valiant. He was. Me and him had some great hardcore matches in Windy City. Um, but he opened up a company in
Okay.
Vanguard, and yeah, I mean, it was going good for a while there. It really was. Uh, we had a school show at I can't think of the name of the school, but it was 1,400 people there.
Oh wow.
So for a brand new company to pull something off like that, I mean, it was, you know,
I got you. So now, when you're in Vanguard, you're becoming Ivan Manson. You have the Manson family. I never really honestly seen the Manson family as like uh, a total heel or total face kind of like gimmick. It was almost like kind of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin in like the '90s. Like we're gonna be who we are. You can like us, you can hate us. We really don't give a shit.
yep,
Um, But has there always been like those times where somebody says, "Hey, listen, we're going to book Ivan Manson, but we want babyface Ivan Manson. We want heel Ivan Manson." Or do you get to a certain point, like in your career, where like you're looking at so you're looking at 2008, 2009, so almost like 15 years at this point, give or take. Like, does it
yep.
get to a certain point? It's like, "Hey, listen, Ivan, go on, and do what you're doing," or do they still have those? No, I need you to be a heel here.
Well, they never actually come out and say that, but I'll see who I'm booked against, and then
Yeah.
I'll just work accordingly.
Okay.
If I'm booked against a heel, I mean, I'm still going to be me. I'm still going to
Yeah.
do what I do in the ring. I'll just play the more baby part.
Hmm.
You know, I, I'm too old to change anything. So I'm not the one to go out there and like really slap hands. Even if you're cheering me, I'm not that guy. I'm still going to tell you to shut up. And people
Hmm.
people people love it.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well,
I oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think we're really in that generation anymore where like the superhero ask like the PG John Cena is like the good guy anymore.
Hmm.
Like I think people enjoy having like that assholish kind of guy
Yeah,
as like you don't know if you could cheer him or boo him, but
yeah,
you want to cheer him because he's so fucking cool. But at the same time, you want to boo him because he will take he'll take his tape off his wrist and choke a guy while the ref's not looking.
absolutely. I
But at
do
the
it all the
same
time.
time,
Yeah.
right? Like it's one of it's like there's so much about like your wrestling style that I love because it's you're a very hard hitting guy. But like you sit there and like you'll go blow for blow, punch for punch for a guy. You will get the ref distracted by Charlie. You'll take the tape off, choke a guy. But at the same time, you'll do a somersault over the top ropes.
Yeah.
There's a heel of sunrise, or whatever it's called. But I mean, like, and it's just how fucking nowhere. I still have. I think it was a somersault over the top rope you did in like 2017. That's still saved in my Snapchat.
Oh yeah.
Just because like whenever I tell people about it, they're like, what do you mean that he flipped over the ropes? Like, I'll have to show you next time he does it. And it's like I know when he come out, it's like there's gonna be that spot
Yeah.
because people love seeing people do that. And then
Hmm.
obviously hitting the stunner, which is an amazing move, no matter how many people's like, oh, that's Steve Austin's move or blah blah. It's like no, a stunner's fucking awesome, no matter who fucking does it.
Yeah.
Um, That's what I love about your wrestling style, because like you'll surprise people. Like even when you're a baby face, like you'll still kind of cut that corner, choke somebody. That's what's
Yeah,
cool about it, and that's what's cool
yeah.
about your character. Uh, tell me about so as you create the Manson family, you said it was just you when it started out.
Hmm.
When did Charlie join? When did Cheeks join? When did you start, bringing people into the family and start creating a legit Manson family?
Well, Cheeks and I have been together since 2000.
Okay.
Like not together, but I mean, she's one of my best friends. So she's always been around. Even in Vanguard, she'd come in and do a little with me when she had some free time.
Okay.
Um,
So like with you as like a manager, like even like the Windy City, she was a manager for you
she was the valet. Yeah.
for
Yep.
the angry Bulgarian.
No. I met her when the very first day I joined Brotherhood. I met her,
Okay,
and she
gotcha.
had already
Okay,
been in Brotherhood a year or two.
okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so when you left Windy City and went to Vanguard, she went with you.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
She was one of the yeah. So with meeting Charlie, I was after Vanguard. I was contemplating. I was like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
So one of my old trainers, Mike Anthony, he was working at ARW. He called me up. He's like, "Hey man, there's some guy here doing your gimmick." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Man, this guy's doing a family gimmick. You got to come check him out." I'm like, "Oh, dude." He's like, "No, he's actually doing a good job. He looks just like Charles Manson." I'm like, "All right, I gotta check this out." So I went there and saw what he did. I'm like, I want him to be a part of me. I want to be with him. So he already had the family going.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to lessen down the guys he had, but I think I helped elevate the family a little bit just because of all the years experience I had and I was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And then Mike Anthony joined me too. So you had me and Mike Anthony in the family. Both big Windy City guys, and he was a trainer in Windy City. So it was good. Yeah, I saw Charlie's gimmick. I'm like, this is awesome. I was like, I can't be mad at this guy. I was like, I love what he's doing. So
Tell me some about the I think Hunter was the one that mentioned it to me first, but I think you guys used to have like some kind of body bag match at Vanguard.
oh yeah, and we had all kinds of stupid matches.
Well, what kind of company was Vanguard? I mean, like, was it more like an LWF, like a backyard, like
Not at all.
death matches, hardcore matches, stuff like that, or was that just a specialty match that happened?
Yeah, so they had a hardcore title. It was called
Okay,
the Hardcore Kingship. So I mean, yeah, you would have the one or two of those matches, but you got guys coming from Windy City,
hmm,
that are technical and the high flyers.
gotcha.
So Vanguard was more of a shoot off from Windy City. It's just we added the hardcore element.
Okay, so like Attitude Era WWF has a hardcore championship thing then.
Exactly.
So it's still a respected company, but we're gonna throw in this edgier matches and stuff because some certain fans like that.
Well, so Windy City did that toward the end. They
Okay,
had something called the Bare Knuckles title.
is this
Um,
around ECW? Is that why?
what's that?
Is this around like the Extreme Championship Wrestling era? Is that why people started getting more into hardcore
I
matches?
think so. I think
Okay.
so. But to tell you the truth, I mean, people just love hardcore.
Mhm.
I've went out there and I've had match of the night. I don't know how many times when I was hardcore champion, just
Yeah.
because of the stupid shit I would do. I would regret it the next week. You know, you feel that shit. But
Hmm.
I mean, it's true. People just love it, and to this day, people still love it.
Oh yeah. Like I don't understand how people could have like a bring your own weapons match kind of thing where they let fans bring. I mean, I remember watching Mike Nolan Acid wrestle at LWF, and they would have a bring your own weapons match and everything.
Yeah,
And I was like, how do you trust something like that? Like it's insane to think like what somebody could bring into the ring.
yeah. But then you can also pick and choose. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they might bring something, but whether you choose to use it or not, that's up to you. You know.
So you and Braun, you guys just had like a households match. I think it was called at ARW.
It was we were having a little family tiff. So it was like a little family feud. every once in a while, me and him have to do it.
Mhm.
It's just we have to. You know,
Yeah.
he's
When did
strong-willed guy and I'm strong-willed guy, and when you put those together, you know, tempers
well there was
flared.
there was a certain point, I think it was like 2015, 2016 that I remember. So it could have happened earlier. Uh Family Asylum was a thing where it was the Manson family along with Braun and the lunatic, their nurse manager, I can't remember his name. Um, how did that come up? Because you said that you and Braun different companies in the '90s. Where did you meet Braun? How did the Family Asylum happen?
Well, I met Braun. He was at a Vanguard show
Okay.
in the audience, and I knew who he was. I looked at him, I was like, man, I was thinking, fuck that guy. But then after the show, he was like, here's a beer, man. He gave me a beer, and that was it. That was the start of our relationship. He gave me a beer, and we talked, and I was like, this guy really ain't that bad, you know. And now I love him to death.
Yeah.
I trust him. He's one of the few people I really, really 100% trust in the ring. No matter what he wants to do to me or with
Mhm.
me in the ring, I fully trust him.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and I see like you guys wrestled a lot of tag teams together, especially in ARW. Um, but so Family Asylum, where did that idea come from?
I don't remember where it came from. It was probably Braun, but we were
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to bring him into the family down in Southland because
Okay.
he was already in the asylum
Yeah.
with lunatics. So I think that's pretty sure that's where it didn't last very long. It only
No,
lasted,
no,
yeah,
it seemed very brief, and then I can't remember which show it was, but yeah, it was. I think I remember like 9 months of it, maybe at most. I mean, when you do a show once a month, it's kind of hard to like really. And that's another
yeah,
thing. That's another thing that's goofy, which I applaud you guys as indie wrestlers who work these like vast territories. Is that even though you're Ivan Manson, you're not the same Ivan Manson at SCW as you are in ARW, which you'll be the same one at DWA. So like
right,
the fact that you have to keep these different like like versions of Ivan separated,
yeah,
I would lose my mind trying to do that shit.
yeah. It is
So I
harder,
mean,
but Charlie helps a lot too.
mhm,
Because he knows his role too, and people,
yeah,
he can get people to either love him or hate him. He is so good at what he does. So, like in Southland, we try to do the more heel down there. That's where we try. ARW, we've always been the tweener. In DWA, we try to do the babyish family. So,
yeah,
it's really up to Charlie how he presents us during his introductions.
mhm,
So I got to give him a lot of credit on helping us sway whichever way we have to go that night.
yeah. One of the things I haven't seen the family wrestle in a while. But 2016, 2017 ish, Jake Andrews joined the family. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about bringing him in because it didn't. It seemed like he wasn't. I mean, I think what does Charlie call him? Like the baby face, the boy next door,
The babyface killer. And yeah,
baby
he
face
calls him the
killer.
boy next door. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where's the decision on bringing Jake Andrews into the family, knowing that like he doesn't have like the same kind of look that you would think somebody in the Manson family would have.
That's exactly why we wanted him in,
Yeah.
because he's the exact opposite. And me and him work so well together because he's my opposite. He does all the technical, high flying stuff, where I'm the more power brute. We made such a really good team. I really can't say enough about Jake Andrews. You
Yeah.
know, love him to death.
Is
I
he
do.
is he still part of the family right now?
We're not really working at Southland, so I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on with Jake. I know he had like some kind of surgery. I don't know if a shoulder or what, but I don't know. I don't even know what his future's holding for him. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't really speak on what you know.
No, no, I totally understand. Yeah, see, that's the thing too. Is like, I mean, like, it goes back to the whole like SCW Ivan Manson isn't the same as ARW Ivan Manson, which isn't the same as DWA Ivan Manson.
Right?
So it's like if I catch you at SCW, but then I see you at ARW, it's a confusing thing as a fan to be like, wait a minute, he's here with Jake Andrews, but here he's with somebody else. But you never
Uh,
see. And that's what I love too. Is like like you have a Manson Family version at ARW, and then there's a Manson Family version at SCW. So there, you never really know how many members there truly are unless you see the whole collection.
Well, our whole point when me and Charlie first started this was to have, a bunch of members, but we wanted to take them with us everywhere.
Yeah.
So, the whole family would be like at Southland, and then the whole family would be Dynamic or ARW.
Yeah.
But schedules, everybody has a conflicting schedules. It was just hard to do. That was the plan from the start. Me and Charlie have been together for nine years now. Me and him been together almost every show. Every time I book a show, I make sure that they know Charlie's coming with me. It's me and Charlie. That's my, he completes me.
So when you first met Charlie, was he wrestling down at ARW, or was he managing just the Manson family?
Well, it wasn't called the Manson family. It was just called the family.
Just called the family, okay.
Yeah, and he was just managing. That's all he's ever done. He might get involved here and there, but
yeah.
Now I was blown away by his mic skills. I was like, yeah, this is what I want.
Especially when he does the intro thing. I mean, like when you sit there and like I hate using televised wrestling as a reference when talking about independent wrestling, but when you sit there and look at like when the New Age Outlaws entered the ring and you knew Road Dogg's, intro was going to happen, and it's the same thing over and over. Or when Triple H did the introduction to D-Generation X, like the words, you want to sing along with it. It's crazy to think that, Charlie's thing is the exact same thing. When people start singing along with it, the very first time I heard it, freaked me the fuck out. I was like, how's everyone hearing this shit? But when everyone like realizing, like, and I said, I mean, super fan Steve Doris down in SCW.
Yeah.
He's almost like a Midwest wrestling historian when it comes to like stuff. So he's talking to me about about Windy City, about everything. So it's like, okay, so Ivan's been around a while, which sucks to think, but makes a lot more sense when you said how exclusive to Windy City Wrestling. Because in the 90s, all I went to was LWF because that's where my cousin wrestled. No one in my family is a big wrestling, like, they're not wrestling fans. I'm the only one in my whole family that actually likes wrestling. The only reason I went to LWF is because my dad is Mike's uncle. So he'll take us just for the hell of it. But as we grew up, he's like, you need to get away from this crap. You got to stop watching. It's garbage. Excuse me. So never made it to a Windy City show. And then when I started going on my own, when I finally got my driver's license in 2005, 6-ish, somewhere around there, I totally forgot that independent wrestling was even a thing. In my mind, WWE, shit like that, that's what wrestling is now. Until I started going down to New Breed Wrestling Alliance in Buckley in Illinois.
Yeah.
There's so much more. There's still wrestling out here. So, I started going to more stuff and everything, but hearing about, especially like talking like with the Elite Pro guys or, where you guys are now, Hunter Payne and all that, they're talking about like companies I never heard of. And I feel bad about that because here I am, a host of a wrestling podcast, and I'm still learning about the shit that I probably should have known already.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's insane. So tell me about some of the places you have wrestled. I mean, so Windy City Wrestling, Vanguard, we know ARW, SCW. So we know, between Vanguard and where you are today, what happened in between those times? Because now we're looking at 2010 to 2018, 20.
Yeah. So that's when I met Charlie, and the ball started rolling. I mean, we just started taking bookings everywhere.
Yeah.
We worked down in IWA Productions. That's down in Mount Vernon. We actually have a show tomorrow night up in Janesville, Wisconsin for JWA.
Okay.
I think that's about it. I mean,
what is JWA? I know because I remember seeing like when DWA did that invitational a few months back. Probably like more like 6 months back. But I noticed that there was LWF, JWA. I think Windy City was up there, but there were multiple like banners of the promotions. What is JWA?
JWA is Janesville Wrestling Alliance. It's in Janesville.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's just it's a fun little company.
Okay.
This is only my second show with them, third show.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it sucks they brought me in so late, where it's
Mhm.
almost the end now, because I could see there could be some pretty cool storylines for me,
Yeah.
but you know,
Well, you know, in this business, Ivan, when people say they retire, I mean, like it's not like a permanent thing.
uh, I am not going to be one of those guys.
No.
No.
Well,
So this is my thinking on this.
yeah.
Um, it would kill me to hear a fan say, "Damn, I remember Ivan when he was good."
Mhm.
If I was in the ring, if I heard his fan say that, that
Yeah.
would crush me. You know, uh, this last uh, this last year especially, I've been telling good stories. I'm still working pretty good in the ring. That's how I want to go out. You know,
Yeah.
uh, I'm not saying I'll never get in the ring again. I mean, if something
Mhm.
comes up where a tag or six man or whatever.
Yeah.
But as for me being an active participant on anybody's roster, that's never going to happen again.
Yeah. And
I
and
well,
I get that.
I get that all the time too. Oh, retiring, wink, wink. Like, no, you know, I love Ric Flair to death, but after seeing this last, him coming back, I loved it when he had his retirement match against Shawn Michaels. They
Yeah.
told a great story. There was so much emotion in that match. That should have been it.
Oh yeah. I was bummed when
I,
he showed up at TNA after that.
I was too.
I
I
was like,
was
he's
too.
ruining it. It's the same thing with Shawn Michaels coming back for that tag team match in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Like absolute shit show. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
nothing against him. He's the one that held the match together after Triple H's injury and Kane's mask falling off and all that stuff. But it's like you agree. Like obviously, I would. It sucks that you are retiring. I would love to see more matches from you. It sucks that I missed so many years of not watching you wrestle. But I understand when you say like you don't, in a sense, you don't want to be a shell of what you were.
Exactly.
You don't want to get out there and just like you don't want to be something that you weren't in, the 90s, the early 2000s, stuff like that. And I get it. And 30
Right.
years is incredible. I mean, not a
It
lot of
is.
people make 30 years, especially in like an independent scene. I mean, the traveling and stuff just kicks your ass, and
Yeah.
you have to take care of yourself. There's not medical staff and physicians and trainers that are going to help you out. Post match stuff. I mean, you're
Yeah.
taking care of yourself, traveling, driving. Show to show to show.
Yeah. And in the last 9 years, it's been almost every weekend.
Mhm.
And I'm not comparing myself like to WWE schedule, because that's a ridiculous schedule
Yeah.
right there. But for an indie guy, you know,
Yeah.
for 9 years, almost every weekend, I was booked. Oh yeah, I used to work. Yeah, Global GPW.
Mhm.
That was one of Braun's other babies before Dynamic.
Yeah.
We worked them first of the month, ARW second of the month, usually off third of the month, and then we'd have Southland the last Saturday of the
Yeah.
month, and it was revolving door. And then come summer, we would throw in an extra show or do a double shot.
Mhm.
So it's a long time to be doing that kind of damage to your body. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
say, oh, it's only a weekend, but man, so I mean, it yeah, I
No,
feel
I
it
get
for a
it.
few, almost a week now afterwards. Me and Braun, he kicked my ass. I felt it for a good week afterwards.
Yeah, Nubby or Turtle, however you know him,
Turtle.
sent me some video of your guys' match because he was able to make ARW. I was unfortunately not able to, and he was showing me like some. There was like a spot there. I think it was like where Braun had like the deer head, and you had the unicorn.
Yeah.
So like that spot right there and
Yeah.
everything, and it's one of those cool things. Like I mean, like there are some people like cynical people who are thinking like, oh, he's holding a unicorn bull up down. What the hell is that going to do? It's like when you realize how much fun it is to see matches like that. That's what makes you a true wrestling fan.
Yeah. And we actually really didn't use it.
No,
It was just like a little comedy spot,
right,
and that's all.
and that's what was incredible because you did like the jousting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You got to throw that in. You
yeah,
know, it's all about the fan. As long as they're happy and having fun and smiling or booing or doing something, then I don't care what anybody says. Oh, that's stupid. Oh, the fans liked it, so
right, right. I
that's all
mean,
that matters.
just look at the fact that you threw Braun through a fucking big screen TV. You
I,
know,
he went head first into that too, man. That's crazy.
So as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, your final match is it what's it called? Black and Blue Wednesday?
Yes, it's the night before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So
They have a
I
yearly show.
yeah, to me it's Blackout Wednesday, but that's all drinking.
Yeah.
So you posted you made a Facebook post deciding who you wanted your final match to be against. You named two people. Brandon Bishop, if that's correct,
Yeah.
and Terry Allen.
Yeah.
Why those two? And do you think that's going to happen?
Well, it's not going to happen with Brandon. Um, I don't know what the lack of communication is there, but so my very first feud
Yeah.
when I was Ivan Urkoff was against Brandon Bishop. He was Mr. USA. He had the Star Spangled trunks. And then Terry was involved too. He was like Brandon's little sidekick. So I had matches with Terry, beat him up, and then Brandon would come make the save. A typical storyline.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a perfect way to end my career, is facing who was my very first feud.
Mhm.
So that's where I got that idea, you know. And I wanted Brandon, but I don't know if he's just not even wrestling anymore or what's going on. But and I still haven't heard back from Terry, so I'm gonna have to do a little post this week. Say, come on, man, you gotta get this
Right.
figured out.
Well, hopefully he listens to my show. I mean, being that he's my boss from Southland Championship Wrestling, and I say so much shit about him here all
Yeah,
the time. Like, I don't know if you listen to my show or anything, but like, I definitely shit on Terry way too much. It's just mostly about like Steve from the Power Hour talking about how if I keep saying things about Terry's gonna burn my fucking truck, and it's like, well, do it, whatever. But I do like Terry, in all honesty. I think he's a really cool guy,
yeah,
very chill guy, and he has a history in this business, just like you. Like when I was talking about doing that Windy City panel, the whole idea is Hunter, Terry, the guy himself. Like I want, and I still want to do that, and hopefully we still be able to do that. I don't know.
yeah.
It's gonna happen. It's a process, but so Black,
Before we go on, I do have to make a little correction. So
yeah.
my last match is going to be in October. The Black and Blue Wednesday, I asked them to give me a little bit of time so I could come out and actually thank everybody. Just do my farewell to you guys.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just wanted to clear that up. So
Well, that's a shame.
my last time in the ring will be in November, but my last match, I'm trying to get Terry to work, is October 10th, I believe. Don't quote me on that date, but it's somewhere right around there. I had to clear that up. I just thought to
Yeah.
myself, oh, I've been giving you the wrong date. So
Gotcha. Well, that's a bummer because that was gonna be my first ARW Black and Blue, and I was hoping to see that last match.
oh, I'm
So
sorry,
do me a
man.
favor, just change it. Just do it for me. It'll be okay. Completely change your plans
All right,
for me.
I'll see what I can do.
But no, that's really cool. Okay, so you mentioned you got JWA this coming weekend.
Yep.
What other shows do you have booked so guys can know to come and check you out before you call it a career?
Man, I'm really coming down to the end.
Yeah.
Like I got Janesville tomorrow, and I don't know if they're running a show in October, so I'm not counting on that.
Mhm.
So the only thing I really have booked is ARW in September and then ARW in October.
Okay.
There's no dynamic on the horizon or anything. So, I mean, I'm down to my last 2, 3 matches, depending if Janesville, runs in the next month or two. But
I got you.
yeah,
I got you.
it's coming. I'm happy about it though, man. I am.
Yeah.
There's so many young, hungry guys in this business right now, and
Mhm.
so many great guys. I feel comfortable stepping back because I know this business is in good hands. I
Absolutely.
really do.
And Ivan, I appreciate you taking the time out to do this with me. I'm glad you picked my podcast to do this with. I think that's really cool of you. Um, we didn't get to cover the stories of and I want to talk about like locker room stories, traveling
I
stories, stuff like
have
that.
tons of them.
And we're going to do more episodes like this because I want to hear those stories. So those will be coming out. I think we're looking to post retirement because I do want to kind of follow up on the back end of the final chapter of your story, as we will. And I just want to say thank you again for doing this and taking the time out to talk with me. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say this earlier. I didn't get a chance. Kind of jealous of the fact that you just did this from outside. Like there's a fucking palm tree behind you and shit. Um,
Got a
so
little bit of whiskey right here.
yeah, see, and you're
Yeah.
smoking. I'm sitting here in my own office. Like, why aren't I sitting on my deck doing this? So a little
We'll
bit
see.
jealous.
That's why I'm Ivan Manson and you're not.
That's true. That's true. I am no. I'm just a nobody.
And I'm just no. I'm just joking. I'm not like that. I don't want you to think I'm just joking.
No, God, no. But you know what? If you were like that, I'd still love you. You are still one of my favorite guys. When I started doing this podcasting and I started going to shows again and everything, like the Manson family was one of the draws for me to go to these wrestling shows. I mean, I probably never would have gone to an ARW show if I didn't know that the Manson family was going to be there. That's what drew me out there. SCW was, they had to have been honored to have you at their shows. I'm sure Vanguard and Windy City felt the same. Um, who would have thought that a Bulgarian would have, become who he is today?
Exactly.
But we're gonna talk. We're gonna have more stories with you towards more the end of the year. We'll definitely schedule this again, probably after November when you do your final farewell.
Awesome.
So thank you again for doing this, and I appreciate it. If I don't know, do you have social media for Ivan Manson, or I mean, you're
I
usually at
do.
Facebook jail too much. I think for people to
I,
really follow
I
you.
am in jail a lot, but I've been good lately. It's been a few months, so
Mhm.
you should definitely hit me up. Ivan Manson on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Check out Manson on Facebook. And of
Yeah.
course, you can find my podcast, Just Regressing the JFW Podcast, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also find the show when it's released on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and even on YouTube because Ivan was nice enough to do a video show with us. So this will be released on YouTube for you guys to watch. We do appreciate you hanging out with us. It's time to ring the bell on this episode. So as always, I am Travis D. I am here with the Mad Dog Ivan Manson talking about his career. Thank you for listening to another episode of Just Freaking Wrestling, the JFW Podcast.